All right, so get this. Today we're diving deep, deep into the world of linguistics.
Linguistics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine, like, cracking ancient languages
Wow.
or crafting some seriously persuasive marketing campaigns
Uh-huh.
or even, teaching AI to get us humans. That's the power of linguistics.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for all of you out there listening, is this deep dive, this is all about acing that big linguistics interview you've got coming up.
It's not just about knowing all the fancy terms and stuff. It's about, like, really showing your passion.
Right.
Showing your skills in a way that really connects with those potential employers.
Exactly.
We'll be using RoleCatcher's career and interview guides today.
Oh, cool.
And their AI tools, too. We'll make sure you're not just prepared, but you actually stand out,
Love it. Love it. So before we get into, the nitty-gritty of the interview, let's paint a picture of what a linguist actually does,
Yeah.
According to the career guide, it's not all like dusty books and grammar rules, right?
No, definitely not. I mean, linguists do study the structure and, like, the evolution of languages, but their work goes way beyond the theoretical stuff.
Okay.
Think of them more like language detectives,
Oh,
uncovering the mysteries of how we communicate
I like that.
and how language actually shapes our world.
And speaking of shaping the world, the career guide had this whole section on career paths and industries. Talk about variety.
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, you could work in language education, developing language learning software,
Wow.
even working on speech recognition tech.
Oh, that's cool.
There's a big demand for linguists in marketing and advertising these days,
Oh, really?
where understanding how language, influences what consumers do is, like, key.
So it's not just about being like fluent in tons of languages. It's about really understanding the mechanics of language itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's fascinating. The guy did mention there is competition in some areas, though.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, academia can be pretty competitive, but fields like computational linguistics,
Right.
natural language processing, these are really booming right now. So there are exciting opportunities, but you need the right skills.
Okay, so we've got a sense of what linguists actually do, where they kind of fit in the world, but let's get down to it. The interview.
Okay.
The interview guide kicks off with a classic.
Yeah.
What inspired you to pursue a career in linguistics?
Oh,
It feels like they're looking for more than just like, I like words.
for sure, yeah. They want to hear your story.
Okay.
What sparked that fascination, Was it a particular language that got you hooked, or a book, or maybe even a travel experience,
Yeah.
This is your chance to connect your passion to the field.
Okay.
And honestly, this is where RoleCatcher's AI can be really helpful.
Oh, how so?
Well, RoleCatcher can actually analyze the specific job description,
Oh, wow.
and it'll highlight those skills or experiences that they're really emphasizing. So let's say the job's really research-focused.
Right.
RoleCatcher might suggest you emphasize research projects they've done, even if they weren't, like, formal jobs.
Mm-hmm.
You can weave those into your answer to this inspiration question, showing you've gone beyond just reading textbooks.
Okay. It's not just about what you say. It's about tailoring it to what they're looking for.
Yeah.
All right. So next question. What is your experience with language acquisition and development? Sounds kind of technical, but I'm guessing they're not expecting you to be like a child psychology expert or anything.
No, not really. But they are looking for an understanding of how languages are actually learned, not just, what you've learned.
Mm-hmm.
Did you take any courses that might be relevant?
Right.
Do you have any personal experience with language immersion?
Okay.
Maybe you've seen how kids in your life picked up a language. It's about showing you've thought about this process, not just, memorize a definition from a book.
So even like casual observations can be useful here. I like that. It makes this field feel a bit more accessible to those who, maybe don't have that formal linguistics background yet.
Absolutely, yeah. One tip from the sample response I really liked was bring those courses to life,
Yeah.
Don't just say, I took a phonetics class. Say something like, in my phonetics class, I learned to transcribe speech sounds using the International Phonetic Alphabet.
Oh, okay.
And that's going to be helpful for analyzing dialects for this research project.
Right.
You're connecting the theory to the actual application.
I see. Okay, that's a great example of like turning a basic answer into something way more, impactful.
Yeah.
Next up, how do you stay current with developments in the field of linguistics? I have a feeling just saying like I read stuff online isn't going to cut it?
No, probably not. This question's about showing your dedication to continuous learning, basically.
Okay.
Are there any specific linguistics journals that you follow? Have you been to any conferences, webinars? Maybe you're part of some online linguistics communities. The point is to be specific, you know. The sample response actually mentioned a recent research paper that challenged a long-held theory, you know?
Oh, yeah, true.
Shows you're really engaging with the field, not just passively taking in information.
Right, right. Makes you sound like a true enthusiast.
Yeah.
Okay, this next question is where things get a bit more analytical. How do you approach analyzing language data? Is this where we, like, break out the spreadsheets, the statistical formulas, all that?
Well, not necessarily spreadsheets, but yeah, definitely some analytical thinking is involved here.
Okay, okay.
Think about a specific project that you worked on. Maybe you analyzed a big chunk of text or conducted a sociolinguistic interview. Walk them through that process, how you gathered the data, your methods, what conclusions you came to.
Right, right.
But what you don't want to do is, like, overload them with jargon, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The interviewer might not be a linguist themselves, so make sure you're communicating clearly.
So even if your process is super technical, you've got to explain it in a way that, anyone can understand.
Yeah.
Okay. The career guide had a section on different research methods. Would mentioning specific methods be helpful here?
It could be. Yeah, if the job description mentions quantitative analysis,
right,
and you've used statistical software like R for your linguistics research, then mentioning that shows you've got the right tools.
Okay.
One pitfall to avoid, the sample response mentioned, is getting lost in the details.
Oh, yeah.
Highlight the key steps and insights, not every tiny thing.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
You want to showcase your process without, losing them in the weeds.
Exactly.
Okay, so question 5 shifts gears a bit. It asks, what do you think are the most important skills for a linguist to have? I'm guessing this goes beyond just knowing a bunch of languages, right?
Yeah, for sure, yeah. While language proficiency is super important, it's just one piece of the puzzle. You also want to highlight those transferable skills, like analytical thinking, attention to detail, being culturally sensitive, and of course, strong communication skills, both written and spoken.
Right, right.
The key here is to connect those skills back to the job's actual requirements.
So if the job involves a lot of collaboration, you'd want to emphasize like your teamwork skills and communication skills.
Exactly, yeah. The sample response gave a great example of this. They mentioned a time where they had to navigate cultural differences during a research project.
Oh, interesting.
Highlighting their ability to adapt and work effectively in these diverse settings.
Okay, that's a good reminder that linguistics isn't just about language. It's about understanding people and cultures.
Exactly.
Okay, so speaking of understanding, question 6 presents a unique challenge. How do you approach working with language data in a language you are not fluent in? Because let's face it, no one can be fluent in every language out there.
Yeah, that's true. This question is all about your resourcefulness. How do you approach a challenge? Think about how you'd use dictionaries, grammar resources, or online databases.
Right.
You could even mention working with native speakers, showing that you're willing to learn and adapt.
Okay.
The sample response emphasized being upfront about any limitations you have, but also showcasing that proactive approach.
So it's okay to admit you don't know everything as long as you show how you'd bridge that gap.
Exactly.
Okay. Question 7 is all about balance, it asks. How do you balance your own research interests with the needs of your employer or clients? This feels like, a potential minefield. What if your passions don't perfectly align with the job?
Well, it's all about showing that you can manage different priorities. You might be totally fascinated by historical linguistics,
Right.
but your employer needs you to analyze social media trends. The key here is to show your flexibility and your commitment to those overall goals. The sample response I liked talked about being proactive and communicating with their supervisor, making sure everyone was on the same page.
So open communication is key, no surprises. All right, question 8 is one that seems to be popping up more and more. What experience do you have working with language technology, such as machine translation or natural language processing? This feels like a whole other world within linguistics.
It is a rapidly growing field. Even if you don't have a ton of experience, be ready to talk about any exposure you've had to relevant software or concepts. Have you used a machine translation program before? taken a course on computational linguistics.
Okay.
The sample response actually talked about using Python for text analysis, showcasing a deeper level of technical skill.
It seems like coding is becoming more and more important for linguists, almost like a secret weapon.
It can be, yeah. It's not a requirement for every job, but it can give you an edge. And that's where RoleCatcher's AI feedback can be really helpful. It'll highlight those technical skills, especially if the job description mentions them.
Okay.
So you can tailor your answers to show off those strengths.
Okay, last question for this segment, and it sounds like the most adventurous one. How do you approach conducting linguistic fieldwork? Is this where we imagine ourselves, trekking through jungles, documenting those undiscovered languages?
It can be that exciting. But fieldwork is more than just the travel, right? It's about immersing yourself in a community, gathering data, and analyzing it ethically.
Right.
The interviewer wants to know if you have the people skills, the cultural sensitivity,
Yeah.
if you can adapt and thrive in that environment.
The career guide
Yeah.
had a whole section on ethics and fieldwork, which makes sense. You're working with real people and their cultural heritage.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the sample response highlighted the importance of informed consent, making sure people understand what your research is about and feel comfortable sharing their knowledge.
That's a crucial point. Building trust and respecting that community. Wow, we've covered so much already. But before we move on, the career guide had this intriguing section on career stages. I think it's worth exploring.
It's like a roadmap for your career, how it could progress.
Okay.
From entry-level linguists helping with research to junior linguists doing independent studies, all the way to senior linguists leading big projects, maybe even shaping policy.
Wow.
It paints a picture of a really diverse and impactful career.
It does.
Yeah.
It shows that there's room to grow and specialize, even in a field as focused as linguistics.
Yeah.
But let's not forget about RoleCatcher's AI tools. How can those help someone navigate these different stages?
RoleCatcher goes way beyond just generic advice, Their AI analyzes those job descriptions, and it can help you tailor your CV to emphasize those skills that are most relevant for each stage.
Oh, I see.
Imagine applying for a senior linguist role. RoleCatcher would suggest you highlight your leadership experience, publications, any projects where you mentored others, showing you're ready for that next level.
It's like having a personalized career strategist right there in your pocket.
It is, yeah.
All right, so are you ready to dive into the next batch of sample questions? We'll keep unpacking these and revealing what those interviewers are really asking.
Yeah, let's do it.
Great.
Okay, so let's dive into another question from this interview guide that might seem, well, a little tricky. It asks, how do you approach working with language data in a language you are not fluent in? This one kind of throws people off sometimes.
Yeah, I could see that. But it's a great chance to show off those problem-solving skills, right?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, no one's fluent in every language out there, right?
Right.
But linguists often need to work across different languages.
Yeah, for sure.
So think of this question as a test of your resourcefulness.
Okay.
What tools and strategies would you use? Would you maybe start by, hitting the dictionaries, looking at grammatical resources for that specific language?
That seems like a good first step. Kind of like a linguistic detective gathering clues.
Yeah, I like that. And don't forget about technology, right?
True.
Translation software can be a good starting point, but dig a little deeper. Online linguistic databases, those can be gold mines, giving you insights into the grammar, the syntax, even cultural nuances.
So it's about like blending those traditional research methods with the latest tech.
Yeah, exactly. And, one approach that really stood out in the sample response was the focus on collaboration.
Oh, reaching out to native speakers.
Yeah. Finding a language partner or a consultant, that can be so valuable. They can give you insights that, no textbook or database can.
Right.
Especially when it comes to pronunciation or idioms, the things that really make a language come to life.
Yeah, it's a good reminder that linguistics is as much about human connection as it is about, that technical analysis.
Totally. Now let's switch gears a bit. This next question is all about how you handle those sometimes tricky professional situations.
Okay.
It asks, how do you balance your own research interests with the needs of your employer or clients?
Ooh, yeah, this one feels like it could be a bit of a minefield. What if your passions don't perfectly match what the job needs?
It's a common concern, for sure. The key is to show you're flexible and you can prioritize. You might be super into, say, the history of a certain language family, but your employer needs you to analyze social media trends for their new marketing campaign.
So how do you find that balance without, seeming like you're not interested in the job?
It's all about communication, being open and honest. In the sample response, they talked about having those conversations with your supervisor or client.
Okay.
Explain what you're interested in, but also show that you're willing to put their needs first.
Mhm.
Maybe you can even find creative ways to work your passions in, even in a small way.
So it's about being a team player, but, still staying true to those intellectual curiosities.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, RoleCatcher can help you with those answers too.
Oh, okay.
Their AI can look at the job description and suggest ways to highlight your flexibility, your ability to adapt. That way your answer really clicks with what the employer is looking for.
Great tip. Okay, ready to get a bit more technical?
Sure.
Question 8 asks about your experience with language technology. Things like machine translation, natural language processing. This is where it gets futuristic, right?
It's definitely a fast-growing area within linguistics. Even if you don't have like a ton of experience, be ready to talk about what you do know. Have you used machine translation software before?
Yeah.
Taken a class on computational linguistics?
Right.
Maybe even played around with programming languages like Python? Those are used a lot in language analysis these days.
Well, yeah. The Sebel response actually mentioned using Python for text analysis, showing they had some deeper technical skills.
Yeah, it's true. Coding's becoming a more and more sought-after skill for linguists. It's like a secret weapon.
It seems like it.
It might not be necessary for every job, but it can give you a real edge. And that's another place where RoleCatcher's AI feedback is super helpful.
Oh, how so?
If the job description mentions needing those technical skills, RoleCatcher will point that out and suggest ways you can show off your coding experience,
Right.
even if it was just, personal projects, things you did on your own.
Well, that level of personalization is amazing. Takes the guesswork out of tailoring those answers.
Exactly. Okay, so for our final question in this section, let's tap into that adventurous side of linguistics. The question is, how do you approach conducting linguistic fieldwork?
Ooh, this is the one where I picture like those intrepid linguists trekking through the Amazon, documenting all those undiscovered languages.
Yeah, fieldwork can be pretty exciting.
It sounds like it.
But it's more than just the travel, It's about really immersing yourself in a linguistic community, gathering that data, analyzing it carefully, and always, keeping ethics in mind. The interviewer's trying to figure out if you've got those people skills, the cultural sensitivity. Can you adapt and thrive in that kind of environment?
Right, right. Speaking of ethics, the career guide had a whole part about that, like, making sure you have informed consent
Absolutely, yeah.
and that you're respecting the community you're working with.
You're working with real people, with their cultural heritage. And in that sample response, they highlighted how crucial it is to make sure those participants really understand what your research is about and that they feel okay with sharing their knowledge.
It's about trust, approaching the research with humility, and being sensitive.
Precisely. Now, before we move on to some more questions, I want to go back to something we talked about earlier, those career stages in the career guide.
Oh, yeah, that was fascinating. It really showed how a career in linguistics can grow and change over time.
Yeah, and there's room to grow, to specialize, even in a field as, seemingly focused as linguistics. It was really cool to see how you could start as an entry-level linguist and maybe even become a senior linguist running those big, impactful projects.
It was inspiring. And RoleCatcher's AI can actually help you map out those different paths, right?
Yeah, their Career Compass tool, that's exactly what it's designed to do.
Cool.
Help you explore those different career paths based on your own skills, what you're interested in, your long-term goals.
So if someone's super passionate about computational linguistics, it could help them find those relevant jobs and even suggest what skills they could work on to boost their chances.
Exactly. It's like having a personal career coach guiding you through that complicated linguistics job market.
That's incredible. Okay, so are we ready for some more sample questions? I feel like I'm getting more confident with each one we look at.
Awesome. Let's do it. We'll keep breaking down what those interviewers are really asking and how to craft those responses that really show off your passion and expertise.
So we've talked about those tricky interview questions, explored all those different career paths you could take in linguistics. But let's zero in on like the core skills and knowledge you need to really make it as a linguist, The career guide breaks it down into core skills and complementary skills. I found that really helpful.
Yeah, it's like building a house, right? Those core skills, they're the foundation.
Okay, I like that.
Things like, applying those scientific methods to language, doing research across different fields, and of course being proficient in a bunch of languages. Those are like the non-negotiables.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But what about the complementary skills? What makes them different?
Think of those as more like specialized tools, techniques. They let you build different kinds of structures. Things like doing field work, creating technical glossaries for certain industries, even teaching languages.
Okay.
These add depth, make you more versatile.
So you build on that foundation, then branch out into areas that, you're interested in.
Ex-
One skill that stood out to me was apply blended learning.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It shows how important online platforms are becoming, right, for learning languages and doing research.
Definitely. Linguists today, they need to be comfortable in both worlds.
It's really interesting how tech is reshaping, like, the whole landscape of linguistics. But we can't forget about, like, the basic knowledge, right?
Right.
The core stuff. The career guide had sections for that, too. Core knowledge and complementary knowledge.
Yes. Core knowledge, that's like the essentials. Grammar, phonetics, semantics. It's all about how languages actually work.
Right. Got to understand the blueprint before you start building.
Yeah.
So what about complementary knowledge? What falls under that?
This is where it gets exciting. It goes into areas like anthropology, sociology, computer science, psychology,
Wow.
even forensic linguistics.
Forensic linguistics. What's that?
It's using linguistics to like solve legal stuff. Analyzing voice recordings, figuring out who said what, examining threats to see who wrote them, even helping to decode like secret messages.
That's like something straight out of a crime show.
Yeah.
It really shows how, linguistics can be used in so many different ways.
It does. It can take you down all sorts of paths you might not expect.
And speaking of paths, let's talk about RoleCatcher again and that career compass tool.
Yeah.
This feels like a great resource for anyone who's like a little overwhelmed by all the options.
Oh, yeah. It's fantastic. It's like a personalized guide. It helps you explore different career paths based on your skills, what you like, and where you want to go long term.
So if someone loves computational linguistics, it could show them relevant jobs and even suggest some extra skills to learn, right? To like boost their chances in that area.
Exactly. It's like a GPS for your career, helping you navigate that tricky job market, making those decisions about your professional journey.
It sounds so helpful, especially in a field as, complex and dynamic as linguistics.
It really is, and it's always being updated. New industry trends, the latest job market insights.
That's awesome.
So you're always getting the best, most up-to-date guidance.
This has been such a great deep dive. We've explored the world of linguistics, tackled those tough interview questions.
Yeah, and don't forget about RoleCatcher. Those AI tools are amazing.
They can help tailor your CV, refine your interview answers, even like guide you to the career path that really suits you.
It's like a secret weapon for your job search.
I like it. As we wrap up, I want to leave you with a question. The career guide talked about how linguists sometimes work with languages they don't know. What skills, what strategies do you think are most important for handling that? Something to think about as you, keep exploring this amazing field.
And if you're ready to take that next step, head over to RoleCatcher. They have everything you need, all the tools, the resources to turn your passion for language into a fulfilling career. Good luck with your interview. And remember, that enthusiasm you have for language, that's your biggest strength. Let it shine.
That's great advice. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into linguistics. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep embracing the power of language.